God. Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I'm going to talk about why I don't like stealth games. And not to say that they're inherently bad, but they don't do the thing that I think they should be doing, and as a result they feel kind of bad. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so to my mind, the point of a stealth game is to live out the fantasy of being the world's greatest ninja, right? Like you want to slip past all defenses, kill the king, take the treasure, do whatever your objective is, and just nothing can see you, nothing can stop you. The invisible man, right? That's the power fantasy this game is trying to accomplish, in theory. But the problem is that every stealth game I've ever played has a system where you can avoid being caught for a certain amount of time, but as soon as something even kind of sees you, you're just fucked. You know, as soon as anything happens, as soon as anything, hears you or sees you or, anything, you're just completely fucked. Either the game just flat out ends as soon as you get detected and you have to restart, or, every guard in the entire game is automatically alerted to your presence and you have to run and hide and go into fight mode, Sometimes once stealth is broken, it's literally impossible to get back into stealth. You just have to fight now. And it sucks. It's boring and dumb, and I hate it. Like, nobody likes being in the cock-up cascade, to quote Yahtzee. And it's awful. And it's in every game. Like, I want to play a stealth game to be stealthy, like when you pick up Assassin's Creed, like one of the early ones that wasn't complete dog shit, you can see that it's very clearly a power fantasy. Like, they've put a lot of narrative and shit in there, but basically the premise is you run around, you stab people. And, you can come up with some interesting ways to do that, sort of like Hitman, but for the most part, you run around and you stab people. And your stabbing people skills are very effective, and your running around skills are very effective, but your hiding skills are fucking shit. And the only way you're going to kill something without being seen is if you have a fucking gun. And it sucks. Like, ugh. And that was kind of the game that like introduced me to the idea of stealth. Like, I want to be able to hide. I want to be able to pop out of a hiding spot, instantly kill a guard with my hidden blade, pop back into my hiding spot, and nothing happened. No one knows, right? I want to be able to go in and sleuth my way through and just murder everything because I'm an assassin and I can do that, right? But like 99% of the time, if you do a stealth kill, it just alerts everything within a 10-mile radius, and now you're in regular melee combat. GG. And that sucks, Not to mention, the Assassin's Creed games were always juggling like 7 different things. So in addition to sneaking, there's free running and team fighting and reactionary fighting. Like, what's the optimum way to play Assassin's Creed? Hold the block button until something attacks you, then press the counter button, rinse and repeat for minutes on end. It's horrible. In some of the games, like particularly Brotherhood, if you break away from combat and just go back into normal posing, then you can do a stealth kill again in the middle of combat because the game can't handle the states properly. So you can get your multi kills with the hidden blades a lot. That's cool. But yeah, most games end up being like that. There's an option to do a stealthy thing, but as soon as you do it, as soon as you expose yourself, as soon as you get caught or whatever, you're just not able to stealth anymore. It's combat time. And that sucks, And of course, games all the stealth games have this huge obsession with detection zones and visual indicators of where the enemy can see and what the enemy can hear and blah blah blah, and that doesn't fulfill the power fantasy. Okay? The fantasy is to be the world's greatest ninja, the world's greatest thief, the world's greatest spy, sneak, distract, get away. And the problem with that is, when you're just sitting on your couch looking at visibility cones and trying to slowly meander your way through, you don't feel like a spy. You don't feel like a super ninja. You just feel like a dude staring at colored cones, being fucking bored as shit. And as soon as you accidentally step into one of those cones, you just hard reset. Who cares? And it just... it sucks. It really sucks. So... and this goes for basically every stealth game, right? Like Metal Gear, Hitman, all of them, all the games that try to do stealth have this same basic problem of it's not addressing the power fantasy of being a spy or a thief or a ninja. It's just, tiptoeing around a bunch of dumbass visibility cones for no fucking reason. And I hate it. That's just what it is. And it's also true that these games almost never rely solely on stealth, right? In Hitman, you can disguise yourself as a person who's supposed to be at the event and, go through a routine and set up a trap and do all this cool stuff. But you're kind of supposed to just walk in with a garrote and then walk out. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. And, they have this stealthy option, but it's kind of like, being at the top path on a Sonic game, right? At the very beginning of a Sonic level, you can probably get some altitude and get up onto the highest level. And if you play perfectly, you can stay on that highest level and have the best game experience and get the coolest stuff and go the fastest. But if you fuck up, even one tiny micro fuck up, even if it's something that totally was outside of your control, you fall down to the next level, or the one below that, or the one below that, until you get to the rock bottom of the shittiest part of the level, where you have to scrape and claw and butt fuck yourself out of this situation. And you'll never get back up to the top once you're at the bottom. You just stay fucked. Right down there at the very bottom, drowning in that shitty water. You fucking die. That's what playing a stealth game feels like. And most of these games, like I've said, are designed to have some other gameplay at that lower level that you're supposed to do instead, right? You can never get back to stealth. Once you fuck up the stealth, now it's a shooter game. Once you fuck up the stealth, now it's a melee combat game. You know? But the thing is, I didn't come here for that. You know? I came here to be Ninja Man. Let me be Ninja Man. You know, the only stealth game I've ever played that even kind of gets this right is Batman, you know, the Arkham games, because in those games you play as Batman, and of course Batman's whole thing is he's a superhero, but he doesn't have superpowers, so he relies on scare tactics and jumping out of the dark and beating the shit out of people with special weapons and crap, like he has to be resourceful, and he has this whole, I am the knight thing going on. So it totally makes sense for him to be like hovering over gargoyles and swooping down in the dark and then disappearing back into the shadow so he can do it again. And it works, right, when you're doing that. Of course, this game also isn't dedicated stealth because Batman is also a superhero, so he also does big punch-up fight scenes because, superheroes. And because of that, you only get the stealth fantasy of being, an untouchable shadow every so often. And the rest of the time you're like on the run from some sort of scarecrow hallucination or trying to convince Bane to run into a wall again or some random bullshit. Who cares? And so it fails to be the perfect stealth experience. Also, Spider-Man keeps emulating this stealth gameplay, and it sucks. Like, I don't know who at Marvel is responsible for this decision, but like, Spider-Man isn't sneaky. He wears red and blue, bright red and blue jumpsuits, and he like is constantly making wisecracks to himself, and he's not sneaky. Don't stop with the making him sneak thing. It doesn't work. Now I do get that that's kind of a natural thing to do. I mean, spiders are sneaky, right? They can climb on walls and drop down from webs and things like that. But Spider-Man doesn't really do that, He's more the bust in to the crime scene, make a joke, and then kick the mob boss in the face kind of the hero, and the stealth sections just suck. Like I played the most recent Spider-Man game for PS4, and it was okay. I mean, like the web swinging was fun, but it was like not very much within my control. You just hold one button and automatically web swing, and that same button also automatically does wall crawling. So if you happen to web sling too close to a wall, it'll just completely fuck up your momentum. Whereas in like the PS2 and GameCube era games, you could alternate L and R to choose which hand you were swinging with, and you could hold the A button to change the acceleration you get when you leap out, and you had a lot more control over how you swing, and it was much more enjoyable to master. And this game has the same spectacle of the swinging, but not the same depth of mastery. So it's as fun on a surface level, but not as fun on a deep level, But in the stealth sections, at least the ones where you play as Spider-Man, your basic objective is knock out all the dudes without being seen, right? And there are a handful of ways you can do this. The easiest way is to just spam the 3 or 4 web abilities you have that will automatically incapacitate an enemy. So the basic way it works is, for anyone who hasn't played the game, when an enemy is sufficiently close to a wall or a lamppost or a car or something like that, you can hit them with webs and they will be webbed to the wall, right? If you're using your normal webs, it takes like 4 shots. But if you use the impact web, it takes 1. If you use the mine, it takes 1. If you use the web bomb, it takes 1. So you just kind of have to spam out the specific web weapons that will incapacitate an enemy instantly. Which actually is kind of a good idea for a stealth game. Like, you want to make a game where you constantly have the advantage in the vantage points, and you can, move easily to the next vantage point without being seen, and you can hit enemies from a great distance and instantly take them down, like a sniper elite ghost warrior, right? What a stupid ass name for a game. Oh, sorry. No, the sniper games also suck. But like doing that where you have a ranged attack that instantly takes out enemies, and you parkour and web zip and jump and warp and get your way around a complex environment, taking enemies out from a distance. That would be a good basis for a stealth game. Maybe. If they didn't fuck up the whole thing with the visibility cones and the dumb, boring bullshit of your fail case. Like, yes, a game needs a fail case, right? It can't be all power fantasy all the time. But, in games where your main objective is kill the bad guys, your fail case is you die after you take too much damage, right? But you have leeway in taking damage, and in most games you can upgrade in different ways to give yourself more leeway, right? You can get better armor, a bigger health bar, all that kind of stuff. And so in melee-focused games, the fail case is like woven into the way that you play to win. And in stealth games, the fail case is like in direct diametric opposition to the way that you play to win, right? Because in a game like Dark Souls, you fail if you die, right? You fail if your health goes too low. But you win by killing things. So you have to go up to enemies and beat the shit out of them. Technically, you don't have to get that close to some enemies because magic is the thing. But, in general, you have to go up to the boss and slap their dick off while not letting them do the same to you. And that, push and pull, that whole diametric thing of I'm going to do this first, like that's a much better system of failure, right? Of success and failure, because you succeed by not failing and you fail by not succeeding. And I know that sounds stupid and obvious, but that's not how it works in stealth games, because you fail, because like in a stealth game, right, your objective is steal all the stuff, kill this one important character at the end of the level, find the unique MacGuffin number 37 hidden under the treasure chest or whatever. Listen to the conversations to collect information about your next objective, right? Like things like that. And those things aren't hindered by you being seen by the enemy, right? Like, if the enemy sees you, you could theoretically still go grab the MacGuffin, or kill the big boss, or sneak away and re-trigger that conversation, like, but when you're in an action game, when you're in a combat scenario, right, if you fail to kill the boss will not fail to kill you. Those things are directly opposed to each other. They aren't secondary. It would be like if your goal is to kill the boss and your objective is to not let the boss eat ice cream, right? Like, what does that have to do with anything? You can totally kill him after he eats the ice cream, or during, whatever. And that's the problem with stealth games, is like you fail not because you didn't do the thing you were supposed to do, but because something along the way didn't go in the correct scripted manner, and that it just doesn't feel like you have agency if that's the case, because like if your objective is kill all of the guys in this building, and then they tack on the whole do it without being seen thing, like, I can do it if I'm seen. Like, I'm basically, like, those missions were always super annoying in Assassin's Creed, because Ezio can kill hundreds of soldiers. I have literally aggroed the entirety of Rome, pulled them into one town square, and just started killing bitches for an hour and a half, just killing every single soldier that came up until I got fucking bored with it. And not dying during that process. And you want to try and tell me that this character, who is this powerful, can just automatically die the second someone sees him, I mean, if Ezio wants to walk into the Borgia Fortress and kill literally everyone there, he can. We know he can. And it's ridiculous when you have a character like that, or like Batman or Sam Fisher or whoever, and they are the greatest, the best, the most powerful in the universe, and if they're spotted by a single regular mook, the mission ends. Like, what the fuck is that? Are you telling me Big Boss cares that some random ass bitch saw him sneaking through the fortress? Just kill that dude and go on. But so yeah, stealth games could do with a little bit of refocusing on to just what it is they're trying to do and how it is they go about doing it. Game Maker's Toolkit recently did a series called The School of Stealth, where he talked at length about the various elements that go into most stealth games. But at no point during that series does he address, like, whether or not these elements are good at providing the stealth fantasy, which is the point, I think. Like, I picked up Assassin's Creed because I wanted to see what it would be like to be an assassin, Pick up God of War because I want to be the God of War, like, that's what games do, right? They put you in the seat of the epic hero, the grand conqueror, the untold badass of badasses, and they give you a chance to be that, to do that. And sometimes you start out weak as fuck and you have to grow into your role as a badass. That's fine, whatever. But it's always about that fantasy, that dream of, this is the cool shit that I can do now. Even in games that don't really have a plot, like Minecraft is about the fantasy of being able to build anything you want, and freaking, The Sims is about the fantasy of having a perfect little family life, or of being a god who can trap people in empty rooms and let them starve to death. Your choice. Like any game has a core fantasy behind it. What is your core fantasy in a stealth game? Because to my mind, your core fantasy in a stealth game should be world's greatest thief, world's greatest secret agent, world's greatest ninja. Something like that, where you have to sneak around. But the thing is, if you're the world's greatest, then you shouldn't get tripped up by some random douchebag in some random place. You should be always on top of it, So that's my thing about stealth games. And there's one other thing I want to address with stealth games, and that's the kind of characters that we put in them. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of stealth games are just like 2 games in one, where sometimes you can be stealthy, but if you fuck that up, then you play the gun game or whatever. But then some games are like hardcore dedicated to the stealth, but their excuse is, oh, your character has to be sneaky because otherwise they couldn't do shit. Which kind of rings hollow for a number of reasons. I mean, one, characters who shouldn't be able to do shit but still do are a thing and have been a thing for a long time. I mean, Mr. Freeman was just some random researcher until the apocalypse broke out, and then he, picked up a crowbar and started surviving. And it just kind of goes on like there are hundreds of examples of characters who have no business being powerful but end up doing that. One of my personal favorites is the protagonist from Far Cry 3, I think. Yeah, pretty sure 3 was the good one. Because you're just some dude on vacation, and then the shit gets rocked, and everyone you know and love dies, and this dickhead is like, welcome to my island, bitch. And now you have to go into the woods and snort cocaine and learn guerrilla tactics until you can kill him. And that's whatever. But when games hardcore focus on a character who's weak to the point where they can't participate in combat, they have a tendency to make the game entirely about avoiding combat, making enemies go somewhere else. Like in the most recent Spider-Man game, you play through some sections as Mary Jane and some sections as Miles Morales, and in both of those cases, your objective is to get past the enemies without being seen. Because apparently Sable will shoot a black kid on sight like they work for the NYPD or something. And I honestly don't know why Sable is a threat to Miles. They're ostensibly a police unit, and he's ostensibly a citizen going about his fucking day. So, but whatever. Um, and in those, you often get like a bunch of context sensitive bullshit to quote unquote distract the enemies so that you can walk around. And that's just boring. Let's be honest. It's boring. Um, like it's the same problem as the other kind of stealth game, but with the added benefit of you don't even have a fail case. You just instantly lose if something fucks up. And you don't do anything interesting. You're just walking. And occasionally, after you've walked enough, you need to press the interact button so that something will happen so that you can walk some more. Like, come the fuck on. How uninteresting can you possibly get? That is the most insanely boring, stupid, not even worth your time thing I can think of. And you know what makes it so fucking sad? Is the fact that Resident Evil 4 did a better job of this. You know, back when that was new. What was that, like 2007? I mean, Jesus Christ, man. So for anyone who doesn't know, or who hasn't played Resident Evil 4, first of all, go play it. I recommend the Wii version because pointing at the screen to shoot is very good. And it's otherwise identical to every other version, so why not? But I think there's a PC version, maybe. I don't know. It's been ported to like everything. You know, it's kind of Skyrim-y in that regard. But if you haven't played it, the basis of the game is you are Leon Kennedy, secret agent slash badass slash zombie killer, sent to rescue the president's daughter from some weird European country where they use pesetas and speak in Spanish, and I don't know where we are in Europe, but it's weird. It's weird. And so you go there and you rescue Ashley, the president's daughter, and then you go on a long adventure to get out of the country with Ashley, and you get separated a couple times. Like a third of the game she's there with you, but most of the time when she's with you, you can tell her to hide, and then you kill all the things while she's hiding, so it plays the same throughout. But one of the times when she gets separated from you, there's a small section where you get to play as her. And during this section, Ashley is a weak-ass bitch. She has no military training, no experience, no nothing. She doesn't have a weapon. You know, I mean, if I were Leon, I probably would have handed her a spare pistol and been like, here, keep, the zombies from killing you. But he never did that, so she doesn't have a weapon. And you have to sneak around through this little pre-constructed area, gather a few supplies, solve a couple of puzzles, and get out. But the thing is, while you're in here, dodging some enemies, you can kill the enemies. Because there are items in the environment you can interact with, which is boring. But instead of, distracting them so you can get away, you just straight up murder those bitches with a huge fire explosion. Which is way more satisfying and good. And, in between that, like I said, you're solving puzzles and opening doors and, progressing through the game as if it were a game. So it's not just walk, try to hide, walk, try to hide, walk, try to hide. Like, you actually have like this whole dynamic thing going on, and it doesn't feel like a dumbass stealth game because it isn't. And Yeah, Ashley is weak and powerless, and it makes sense for her to be weak and powerless. And yes, there are enemies in this area because it makes sense for there to be enemies here. And yes, she has to do something about that, but she doesn't have to be a weak ass bitch. And she doesn't have to die the second they see her. And you don't have to make the game boring as fuck just because she can't, you know, kick ass and take names the way Leon would. Right? Like, come on, guys. If if you're not gonna do, the badass character, you can at least do the character that, takes advantage of their surroundings and has some interesting puzzles to solve and environments to interact with. Like, Jesus. Um so yeah, when it comes to stealth games where the character is powerless and has to sneak around and be boring, Ashley puts them all to shame. And like I said, that game came out a long time ago. Like a long time ago. And like literally it released on the GameCube, which is I guess now 4 console generations ago. So come on, get your shit together, guys. Like you can't one up a game from that long ago, then maybe drop out of the industry. So yeah, that is my take on stealth games. Give the player something to do that is interesting, and make your fail case actually be the opposite of your win case, instead of being something that's sort of off to the side of your win case. And, make it so that as the player succeeds, they get further and further away from failure, rather than the other way around. Actually, a not terrible way to do this is to have a chase. So now this isn't the best thing to do, and it's easy to do it badly. But, if you think of games like Nemesis, Sonic Adventure 2, no, actually it was it Adventure 2? Or Adventure 1? No, it was Adventure 1. Adventure 1. So in Sonic Adventure 1, you can play as Amy, and her gameplay revolves around running through the same levels everyone else runs through, except fewer of them, and not getting hit or not getting captured by this big robot thing that is chasing her, and that she apparently doesn't have the power to destroy, though she can hit it and disable it for a few seconds, which and so, your objective is to reach the end of the level, and your fail case is letting that dude catch up to you, right? So in that sense, your objective and your fail case are diametric opposites, and you do get further away from your fail case as you get closer to your objective. So in that sense, it is good, but it's also bad in the sense that, there's no reason why Amy shouldn't be able to interact with the enemy here, and it doesn't pose a real threat, and her levels are just kind of short, boring, cut down versions of everyone else's levels, and there's just not a point. It's done slightly better in the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, where you have a nemesis who follows you around throughout most of the game, but he only follows you through like set piece locations, so it's not quite as good. And honestly, beating the nemesis or escaping the nemesis isn't really your main objective. Your main objective is don't die, and the nemesis chasing you will probably kill you if you don't get away from it. But beyond that, it's not really a point. And of course, they brought that mechanic back when they remade Resident Evil 2 and 3, but with some alterations. And so yeah, basically, there are different ways to do stealth, right? Instead of sneaking into a fort and avoiding visibility cones, you could have a character who is on the run from a pursuing force and needs to, constantly stay ahead of them and sneak and such to do that. Or you could have characters who are competing with you, right? Like, your objective is steal the MacGuffin, and their objective is steal the MacGuffin, and you don't lose if they see you or anything, but the idea is to stay in a position where you can keep an eye on them and make sure that you interrupt their path and get an advantage on your journey to the MacGuffin, right? As long as you stay ahead, you can lay traps and sabotage, Snidely Whiplash style. And that could be a compelling way to make sure that your objective lines up with the power fantasy of being a stealthy bitch. So, yeah, that's my take on the stealth genre. Visibility cones are stupid. Those little eyes that indicate if you've been seen are stupid. Alerting every enemy within a 10-mile radius so that you switch into combat mode is stupid. Instantly forcing us to reset the second we get seen by something is stupid. And none of those things help you live out the power fantasy of being the world's greatest secret agent, ninja, spy, assassin, thief. Like come on. So that is my take on stealth games. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Do you think any of the ideas I suggested are viable? I know the whole thing of having an enemy chase you is because it's been done before and it's been done in bad ways before, so maybe it's not a great idea. But I think the idea of competing for an objective against an AI and like having to set traps for them and things like that would be cool. And I think the idea of running around a big environment, stealthily assassinating as many enemies as possible is pretty cool. And I mean, it's not like that hasn't been done. That's definitely part of the appeal of Assassin's Creed. But, a game that was focused on that and does that really well to the exclusion of all else could be a much better stealth game, But that's just me. Yeah. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Okay, end card time. I'm supposed to tell you to like, comment, subscribe, all that stupid YouTube shit. There's a bell thingy, whatever. I have all the social media stuff: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Mostly I use Facebook and Twitter to tell you about my Twitch and YouTube uploads. I've got a Patreon, but Patreon is one of those things where people who can afford to throw away money give money to people who can't. And so if you can't afford to throw away money, then you shouldn't be doing that. And if you can afford to throw away money, consider charities. There's a pandemic. There's global warming. There's millions of people in the world who don't have toilets, which is just awful. So I've linked a few charities in the description down below in case you're interested in that. And if you can't donate money to a charity, consider donating some of your time, because that's also very useful. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.